What's the most untrained part of the human body?
The kneecap.
Listen, your body is so cool. Your kneecap is actually one of the reasons you have so much power in your legs. Yeah, you got big, strong muscles in your thighs and your glutes, but the patella, the kneecap, functions like a fulcrum. It works just like a crowbar would to help you have more power and force and strength in a movement by utilizing that bony prominence to push off from. What's even cooler about that is that when you're born, you actually don't have a kneecap because you don't need it. You simply have a patellar tendon that goes from your quadriceps over the front of the knee and inserts on the front of the shin. Over time, as you first begin to crawl and then begin to stand and then begin to walk and then start to do more complex tasks like jumping or running or climbing, and you need to be able to generate more force with your legs, your body begins to deposit bony tissue right in the center of your patellar tendon, and somewhere between the ages of 6 years old and 2 years old, you'll form your patella or your kneecap. So who trains the kneecap? The only time somebody usually trains a kneecap is if you get an injury to it. And if you're someone who has been diagnosed with something painful like subpatellar pain or patellofemoral arthritis, you'll know that the solutions from most physical therapists and doctors is either to rest so that you don't cause inflammation and irritation, or to slowly increase exercise to tolerance, which for most people means there's a whole bunch of stuff in your life that you used to do that you just can't really do anymore because you've had issues with the kneecap. Neither of those are interventions that actually work to see if the kneecap moves where it should move. So here's what we've got to understand. For a kneecap to do its job, as you're bending the knee and producing forces with your leg, the kneecap has to be able to shift, not just north and south, and not just right and left, but to actually be able to move in a full circle. It's this type of work that's going to help us give freedom of movement to the patella so that when you start to engage your leg muscles and utilize this as a fulcrum point, it's in a position that feels good and doesn't cause anything like irritation, inflammation, or arthritis. So let's just start by figuring out how to assess your patella. Number one, this thigh muscle has to be turned off. So go ahead and relax your ego and shake it out. Make sure this muscle is super relaxed and nice and jiggly. And then just take the kneecap and first see, can you move it north? Can you slide it towards your body? And can you move it south? It should have a good bit of play. How much play your kneecap needs is going to depend on what you use your legs for, but let's just start by saying it should move some amount. For me, I get a little clicky as I go forward, so I know that this pocket of connective tissue down here might need a little bit of time and work. Next, let's see if you can keep the thigh relaxed and shift it to the right and to the left. Again, there should be movement, and you'll probably notice for most people that moving it away from the midline, so moving it laterally, is a place most of us aren't very good. But then let's take that and do what we call the clock. So moving it away from your body to 12. What happens if you slide it over to 1, to 2, to 3, to 4, to 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 7, 8, 9 o'clock, 10, 11, and 12. As you could see from my movement, I don't have a ton of 10 o'clock. I don't have a ton of 2 o'clock, and maybe I'd say my 4 or 5 o'clock is not the best. So how do we work with changing this? What you want to think about is slow pressure over time. You're basically trying to open up pockets of range of motion in your connective tissue so that if your kneecap did need to go to 10 o'clock, it could. And it's a very simple procedure and a process. You look for the stickiest, the clickiest bits. Simply hold your kneecap in that position, set a timer for 2 minutes, and wait. Holding that position steadily will start to encourage these tissues over here to make space, because now you're letting the body know that this is a range of motion, or this is a range of motion that you'd like your kneecap to be able to move inside of. You might find that you have one spot in particular or multiple spots. If you were to spend 2 minutes once or twice a week moving your kneecap and holding it steadily in that direction, you probably begin to notice some freedom of movement. I can always tell on long hikes when I haven't been doing my patellar cars and I haven't been doing my patellar work, because underneath that right kneecap begins to get a little bit irritated. It's a simple tool you could start to throw in your arsenal and see if it begins to work. Obviously, we're never working against doctors' recommendations and never to a place of pain, but beginning to incorporate these patellar holds and the patellar articular rotations into your everyday routine may find you a little freedom of movement in the knee that doesn't just make you move better and easier, but actually helps you to access your strength and to move a little bit more mass with a little more force and maybe even a little more speed. Give it a shot and let us know in the comments down below how it goes for you. Where were the sticky bits? Where does it move evenly? For some people, you might even find your kneecap barely moves at all, and that's a huge red flag. Time to get to work.